Alright, so here's a video of a complete breakdown of the original flip-up thumps that Oakley made back in, they started in 2004 I believe. There's a lot of parts. They're not friendly to take apart at all. But anyway, this is your ribbon cable, which is connected through the frame. There is your main front frame, and this guy sits in there, just like that, and you bend the frames in slightly, it locks in place. You bend the frame in slightly, that locks in place. That gives you your main front frame. This is your logic board. This is on the right hand side of the frame, always is, always on the right. That's your ribbon cable connector, and here is your right hand speaker connector. There's your outer shell on, what side is that? That is on the right side, and this is your shell for the left side, which is where the battery's housed. This is your volume control board, and there's two little tiny switches in there. These are your buttons, and I don't know if you can see in this video, but the buttons have a shape. They're kind of egg shape, and you want to make sure that the thinner part of the button goes towards the outside of the frame, and it sits just like that, and that gives you your button. This pair customer took apart, well, took partly apart. I've finished taking it completely apart. What they did was, by mistake, they pulled the ribbon cable out of the volume control board. That is one of the biggest problems with this pair of frames for replacing the battery, because the ribbon cable connector is underneath this volume control board, and the volume control board is held in. It's actually plastic welded into the frame. So really the only way to do it is you have to heat these pins up with a hot air gun without melting the rest of the plastics, and then gently remove this volume control board to be able to reconnect your ribbon cable. The battery actually connects down here, and that's, as you can see, this is the old battery, puffed up, really big and puffy. It's no good. So if you look at your battery, you will see the two wires on one side, but on the other side of the connector you'll see just two tiny little pins. Well, the way this battery goes back in these frames is you want the wires facing up, and if you just gently wiggle it about, it will just go straight into the connector hole, and then you gently just push it back in, and there's your battery connected. So that's easy. Problem is the speaker. The speaker sits in the housing like that, and there is a tiny little groove just to the left of the screw hole. You have to make sure, firstly, you expand the telescope as much as possible when you put that back in there. And then these two little wires, you have to push back into the groove. And it's not easy trying to do a video and do this at the same time, but it is possible. You can use your fingernail and you can get them back in there. So when the frame, what side have we got? Yeah, the frame goes back on, it doesn't trap the speaker wires, because that's the most common thing to happen. People take them apart, they trap the speaker wires. The first time they pull the speaker out, it rips the wire there, and then you've got a problem. But we still have a problem, because this connector, which is your speaker connector, is also underneath this volume control board. So because they've been taken apart previously, I have to now take this apart, connect the speaker up, connect up, well, I don't have to connect the battery, that can be done later on, but I have to connect the ribbon cable. And when you do that, Oakley did two different styles. You will find one with a short ribbon cable on the left hand side, or it will have a much longer ribbon cable on the left hand side. The longer ribbon cable on the left hand side is the kind of the first generation they did, and then for some reason they changed it to a much shorter ribbon cable. So that goes in technically just like that. So once you've got the ribbon cable back in its position, you get your frame. Get your frame, and your frame goes back on like that, and you have to bend this back while lifting your arm, or your left arm up, so that that locks into place, so it will go back into the frame. Now I've taken the hinge pins out. These are the hinge pins. They're not friendly to get out either, but I'm just showing you how this whole frame comes apart. And there are a lot of parts to it, and it's a fiddly thing to play with. But if you've done one or two, it's really quite easy to fix. The other issue that I come across a lot is people break these wires, or the wires get pinched. As soon as they're pinched, once you start flexing or expanding and contracting the arms to fit your ear, the wire breaks, literally just breaks where it's been squashed. And to replace this wire and the connector, you have to basically destroy the speaker. That's the only option you have. You can't take this arm apart without doing any damage to it. So the speaker becomes sacrificial. And the way to do that is the 6 holes on the back. You get a small screwdriver, or something. I actually use a screwdriver for an iPhone. You can put that in the hole and you push against it, and the speaker will pop out. Then you just cut the wires off, pull the wire out, replace the speaker. Now, to put the new wire in, that's the fiddly job. What you have to do is find a very, very small piece of wire, and you thread the wire through, and there's a really small hole at the end where the speaker is. And it takes some patience, you wiggle it around, and you'll finally get the wire to come out the speaker hole. What you then do is solder on the new wire with the connector, and you pull it through, which then allows you to solder to the speaker. It's not for the faint-hearted. I think it's easy to do. I've done so many, but that's the biggest problem with the original Thump frames, is people damage the speaker wires. Then the last thing is, when you're ordering a battery for the Thump, the original Thumps, the first ones came with a 120 milliamp per hour battery. And if your frames show 120 milliamp per hour, then your frames will only take the 160 milliamp per hour battery as an upgrade. But if your frames show the 160 milliamp per hour battery and there's a number on the battery, it's here, it's 501235. As long as the last 2 digits are 35, your frames will take the 200 milliamp per hour battery. If the battery says 30 on the end, it will only take the 160. Again, the JST connector, Motorola stroke Oakley, did reverse polarity on it from what the standard is. So it was, again, proving difficult to get a manufacturer to do connectors with wires not the standard. But I have the batteries for these frames, and I will do another video on how to change the battery without ending up in this mess.